There we go. I think I got it. So, um, thank you for doing this and, kind of kicking off this thing I'm trying to get going for us here in Oklahoma for volleyball. Let's just start with telling us a little bit about you as a person, and then we'll jump into you as a volleyball coach and player.
Sure. Okay. Myself as a person. Well, I'm married to my fabulous husband, Daniel. We got married in 2008. We have three boys. The twins are 5. Jet and Jax, and Knox is 2. We have 2 cats, and we're both from Tulsa. Daniel and I actually met in high school. We're not high school sweethearts. He's 2 years older than me. His brother's my age, and then their little sister as well. And we all went to uni together, and I kind of went to his parents' house for a couple of Fellowship of Christian Athletes events, and I just thought of Daniel as like, the smart older brother who was always doing calculus homework when we came over. And so I remember my senior year, he came back to watch his brother playing the state championship for football, and I was like, "Hey, Daniel, looking good." He'd gone off to OSU. And anyways, we just kind of, yes, go Pokes. I've had to learn how to say that because my dad went to OU and my brother and sister-in-law went to OU. So, that's kind of what I was bred saying. But as an Oral Roberts alumnus, yeah, go Pokes is where I've had to shift my focus to since I don't have a football team of my own to cheer for. Anyways, so we started dating when I was a junior in college. We saw each other that summer before. No, how did that work? Golly, regardless, long courtship story. But he was deployed. I was studying abroad. We did like a year of courtship and then got married after I graduated from ORU. We got stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. He was doing nuke school there, and he had already been in the Navy for 2 years at that point. And so my degree is in broadcast journalism. So I was able to use my journalism degree at the ABC affiliate in Charleston as a news producer. And then we got stationed in upstate New York for just a couple of months. And then we were down in Norfolk, Virginia. And kind of just realizing how much we were going to jump around with the military life, I was like, okay, so coaching is something I can jump back into. I did it in college. I had coached for Dane Hendricks at Booker T, and helped out with Club 1 for that winter of my senior year before I graduated. And so and it had just been rebranded to Club 1 at that point. And so that was kind of my first inkling into coaching and how I enjoyed it. But, I'm a big girl now, so I have to go do my big girl career. And coaching was just something I could fall back into. And so I found a local club in Virginia, got plugged in there, and he was like, "Hey, there's some athletes out at this school that you need to go be the head coach for. None of them play club. One of them plays club. But so go out there," and just had a really great time. It was a military military town. And so it was Suffolk. It was just, you have to go to the river, tons of rivers there, big Bay Area. And it was just a really fun experience. So it was my first job as a head coach at 25. So I didn't really have a lot of experience as an assistant. Like, Dane kind of let me do my own thing, running the freshman team at Booker T, and then kind of ran my own little 15-2s team at Club 1 as a senior in college. You're not seeing that these days because we are getting more coaches, thankfully. But at that point, the most qualified to coach a 15-2s team. And at Club 1, you just wouldn't see that now. Anyway, so that's kind of who I am as a person. I've had many different careers. I had a home staging business before I had my kids. I just, love to dabble in a lot of things. My high school basketball coach sat us down. I also played basketball union. He sat me down during season. It wasn't me. He said it to the whole team, but it felt very directed at me because the day before I was walking out of basketball practice and had my volleyball knee pads on. And he said, "Is Coach McKee having you practice during my season?" And I was like, I'm heading to club volleyball practice. I want to play volleyball in college. That's how you're recruited. And, he was just kind of flabbergasted that I was doing another sport. I might get injured. So he sits us down as a team the next day, and he was like, "Guys, I know that at Union you have a lot of opportunities and there's lots of things pulling and vying for your attention, but you can really choose to be a jack of all trades, but you'd be a master of none. And that just like hurt me because I felt like, man, I'm just never going to be a master at something because I enjoy doing these things. And then I realized that was God's gifting over me. I really enjoy doing a lot of different things. And I think that that's made me more well-rounded and more adaptable. And, you know, something that he wasn't even meaning for harm, God did turn for good, because I love that I can say I'm a jack of all trades. That is who I am as a person.
Well, that was a lot, and I agree.
That was very long-winded. There you go. Just cut that right out.
Yeah, you know, but I agree with that. I love my kids being multi-sport athletes, and
Mhm.
the statistics show. You know, we can talk about that, but so have you always known you wanted to coach volleyball? And I know you said you wanted to play volleyball, but were you ever thinking, you know what, I'm going to be a coach one day, or is that just something that naturally evolved into you doing?
I think it naturally evolved. There were just some steps that different situations, events that kind of led me down that path. Kind of, you know, alluded to that in my first story there, but it kind of started with Kanakuk, which is a sports summer camp that I worked at during the summers at college. And it just kind of showed me how important that mentorship role is in everyone's life, where we were mentoring these girls and pouring out everything we had emotionally, spiritually, physically, giving everything, but we were in turn poured back into by the leadership team and doing inductive Bible studies and just being filled back up and learning more and being nourished in that way. And it just showed that circle of being mentored and mentoring other people, and just kind of lit that fire in me of, I really enjoy doing this and seeing these girls have light bulb moments. And so that's coaching in and of itself, you know, mentoring. And volleyball is just my vehicle because it's the sport that I love. Like, I love basketball too, but in volleyball, I just saw daily improvement. And I think that was more rewarding because I had to do dribbling lines every day in basketball and it was just more monotonous. Whereas like the variations of volleyball were just exciting to me. And I had more potential in volleyball. And so that was kind of what I pursued. After my 18 year in club, I had decided I didn't want to play in college, though. I really wanted to go to ORU and just pursue a Christian worldview education. But then I played in the All-State games that summer and I thought, gosh, I do love this sport. And so I knew Mira and just talked to her, and she's like, yeah, we'd love to have you walk on. And so it was me and my roommate, was my maid of honor. And so we're still great friends to this day, but we were the only two freshmen and we were roommates. And it was a great experience. We got getting to travel everywhere, you know, worked my way into some playing time because Shira just loved me. You can, you know, highlight that, Shira. There you go. And it was just fun to be around that, but also seeing the commitment of the D1 level and how it completely like owns your life. Was also not really, I think, in my wheelhouse. I knew that I was a jack of all trades. And so I was a part of the program through my senior year, but not on the team the whole time. And so I loved being able to come in and practice and do all of that stuff. And it was a really great experience, but wanted to finish my college education there as well. So yes, I didn't always know I wanted to be a coach, but it kind of lined up that way. Asked to coach my senior year, saw how I really enjoyed that, and then fell back into it because my career path wasn't as conducive to a military lifestyle. So that's how that worked out.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of people on both sides of the spectrum, and it's usually, the way I see it is, people who's grown up with coaches for parents. They just always knew. If they're one of them, they knew. And the rest of us are, you know, we love the game and we start to see, like you said, like how much we can give back and how much of an impact we can make. And we just find that is an awesome vehicle to use. And, you know, I think it's awesome either way, and such big parts in these kids' lives.
It really is. And just to kind of tap on another part of your question there, why I continued to pursue it after kind of getting my feet wet was because I reflected on the fact that at Union, in both sports that I played, I never had one female coach. So I never had a sound female voice speaking into my life to what it looks like to be a female leader, to be a working mom. My first female coach was Shira in college. And so not that these men are not great mentors, still, most of them are still in my life. And that's huge because I've loved what they've spoken over me. I still use some of their life lessons to my own girls, but I think there's something unique to be said about a female coach in a female sport. I mean, yes, it is a men's sport too. Don't get me wrong. Because when my volleyball girls ask me if I'm going to have a fourth child so I can have a volleyball player, I'm like, I already have 3 volleyball players, and they're going to play at Pepperdine, and I'm going to buy a house in Malibu, and it's going to be great. So I don't need to have another kid. But I mean, from the perspective of when it is a female sport, and I think the statistic that I saw recently was less than 50% of collegiate volleyball coaches are female. And that could have changed, but I remember seeing that in an AVCA conference recently. So having little kids kept me further away from the professional development side. But anyways, I remember seeing that statistic and just really reaffirmed in me wanting to coach because of being a female. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry. Had to get that in there too.
Yeah. So let's kind of have a broad overview. Would you agree that Oklahoma volleyball is behind other states around us when it comes to our sport?
Yeah. Being a club coach and seeing obviously what is out there on a bigger spectrum, because in high school I'm just seeing our Oklahoma teams. But knowing how some like internationally train their kids from a young age and how we can get some more grassroots efforts going, because again, you have these kids playing basketball and soccer from age 2 and 3. And we barely have just now started introducing programs that are getting 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds just learning the game and what the idea of keeping a ball in the air looks like, I think that's why we're behind more, because it hasn't been a sport that's accessible, just like winter sports. Like I just watched Cool Runnings recently, and it's my favorite movie of all time. My husband turned it on the other day, and it just got me revved up again as a coach. I haven't watched it in a few years. And so just looking at it from a coach's perspective, as opposed to from an athlete's perspective, it was just like, well, obviously there's not a Jamaican bobsled team because ice is not available to them. Like we have basketballs at every gym or every park gym, and it's easy to pick it up and go, or just get a soccer ball and go, dribble out in the backyard. And so volleyball just isn't as accessible. And like I said, when I was coaching in college, and I'm coaching one of our twos teams as a senior in college, it just showed me that shortage of coaches and helping these young girls realize, like right now, my assistant at Club One is Abby Cunningham, and she was my libero at Lincoln Christian this last year. And I mean, honestly, all of my seniors, I have 7 amazing ones, could be coaches, that we're training these girls up. I love running camps in the summer because it makes them coach. If you're able to coach it, the concept better. And so training these girls to be able to verbalize what coaching looks like and to let them have those light bulb moments and those bonding experiences with our younger athletes so that we have more people building the game. So yes, I agree with the fact that we're a little bit further behind. I think one of the other hangups is that Oklahoma has slow pitch softball in the fall. So we're also competing with athletes in that aspect. I don't know why we do it, but that's another story.
Yeah, that one's a hot topic for a lot of volleyball people. I'm sure it gets Oklahoma in a rile a little. But I mean, I agree. It's something I think we need to look into. I'll just put it that way.
Yes, exactly. It's on the back burner.
Yeah. So you've talked about a couple times, you coach club and kind of that club atmosphere. How much of a role do you feel like club plays into high school programs and how that makes them competitive?
That's a great question. So I grew up at a church called Grace Fellowship, and one of my good friends is Zach Briscoe, and he coaches at Rejoice now. And we were, I remember texting him when I was living in Virginia and he had won the state championship. And I was like, how many club kids do you have? He's like, I only have like 1. I was like, whatever. It's because you're just like a small Christian school, not knowing I would then coach there later. But I remember thinking, well, good for Zach, and Zach, I know that I had helped him start learning some volleyball drills because he had taken over the Grace program when we were at ORU. And, he was just such a learner. He has that mentality you would want in a coach of being a constant learner, open to new ideas. So he would go and follow other coaches' practices and try and just absorb as much information as he could because he didn't play volleyball growing up. But he did a great job with what he has. And I do think that club plays a part. And you can tell the programs that are perennially successful do have club kids. I'll say the first 2 years that we won state, our starting setter had never played a day of club in her life. Was she a great athlete? Absolutely. And she was coachable. And it was just fun to be able to train that was only under my purview, if you will. But there was, she was an athlete. And so it was easy to train that. But there's also this other dynamic of clubs are growing so much because kids are loving volleyball and the sport has blown up even more. And we just, as much as there was a coaching shortage, we're barely closing that gap because more and more players are playing, but maybe not getting the coaching they need. And so we're seeing a lot of these kids play the sport, but not maybe come out of that with very sound skills, which, if they're being coached and learning life lessons, that's one thing. And if that's what you're paying for, but then there's also the side of, I remember having a parent tell me, well, my kid starts for the ones team at so-and-so club when I was coaching in Oklahoma City. And I was like, I don't even know what that club is, okay, so they play for a ones team, but that doesn't necessarily compute to being able to start on a varsity program at the 6A level. And so, it's interesting how club does play a part, but it's not the end all be all. If you have a sound middle school program, man, you could definitely make that your feeder program and not count on the different coaching styles of club to feed your program. Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what the difference would be of having, like you just mentioned, a middle school program be your feeder rather than have to rely on club.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that your middle school program and your ninth and your JV would all be geared towards your system and using those cues and those things that, are relevant in their heads in what they're doing when they get to varsity, all being in line rather than like you said, different coaching strategies. And I'm not saying one will help or hurt the other, but it's
exactly
curious because this one requires you to be more adaptable to other systems and, really be kind of like you said, jack of all trades, whereas this one really helps you stay in a very constructed system. I think that would be a very interesting experiment somehow to run. I don't
exactly. Yeah.
So talk about club. You coach club, and it's for a rather large and successful one. What team do you coach, and why that group?
So I coach our 11s team, our 11 ones team, I guess. And so we just recently, last year was my first year coaching it before the pandemic hit. So I didn't even get a full season with them, but totally fell in love with it. I have always coached our older girls because I'm a high school coach and want that competitive push to better myself and looking strategically at different things, hearing these high school girls come in and hear their perspective, what their coach has been teaching them, and trying to, create a vision for a short club season. Whereas with high school, I'm able to build a culture, and you have to do that in such a short period of time with club, especially with girls that have been hearing different things. And again, not bad at all. Like, I'm always going to be a coach's advocate every single time. I'm never going to say your coach is wrong, because that's not the case. I'm just curious. I want to know why your coach is teaching you that for sure. And so kind of just finding a common ground in that aspect. But that commitment level was a little bit too much for me at this stage in life with having the 5-year-old twins and then the baby. So, I mean, Knox is 2.5 now, but when I started exploring going to the younger age, I knew we wouldn't be traveling as much. And so that was kind of why I did that. And I do think that being now a more seasoned coach, that's weird to say that, you should be having those coaches at the younger levels, because we do want to build such a strong foundation. And so I had gone to the ABCA convention in Kansas City a couple of years ago, and I'd sat in on a clinic. Ruth Nelson, she is the one that has started Bring Your Own Parent, and it's such a cool curriculum. I know Charge has gotten it going. But I just kind of grabbed some of those and thought about, I want to run this as a camp at Lincoln, just because we want to educate our parents. I think that helping them understand the game empowers them, but also lets them know that we're a team. Like, that's my favorite thing about Lincoln, is our vision of, we partner with parents to help the athlete, that we're not against each other. We want to get on the same page. And, I think that I've enjoyed coaching volleyball so much because most parents don't know the sport. So if they want to come and talk to me about a technical thing, or say, well, my kid is best at this position because blah, blah, it's like no one has ever been able to come to me and out talk me about the sport. And I'm not saying that to be mean or brag or anything, just from that standpoint of there's just not a lot of knowledge of the sport. And now last year was my first year that I had a parent that was younger than me. And I cannot believe I'm in that stage now where I'm coaching athletes where the parents are younger, because I've always just been, the young one that said, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, I understand where you're coming from. And not that I'm not still going to be that coach, but there is a slightly different dynamic there of, I'm having more parents that have played in high school. And so more conversations are able to be had. But Ruth Nelson, I think, just brought it around in such a great way of creating a bonding experience with your child, where you're learning the sport together and giving them more quality reps at home, by you knowing some more of the sport. And so I think that kind of triggered in my mind, oh, I love that. I want to help the young ones, make sure they're strong. Our junior high program is definitely a huge reason for our success. And if I didn't have my 2 assistants there, if they retire, I will cry. Because they're not just floating around. And the fact that I can just trust what they're doing and not be super involved at this level, again, because of feeling pulled as a mom of little ones, I'm really, really thankful to have their solidity there. It's just so nice. Thank the Lord, because it's a lot during high school season for sure. Yeah, There you go. That's why I'm coaching the 11s now. A little less time commitment, and I just fell in love with it. They love the sport. They're so hard to please. They're learning exponentially. It's just so fun to see that level, whereas you're refining here at that high school level, and then the 11s, it's just like their growth is huge, and you want to be a part of helping them learn what that looks like, because you want them to be good teammates. They don't know any other competitive level yet. I mean, they may know their sports, but from volleyball, these girls, one of my favorite stories was, we got like last our first tournament, got like second to last our next tournament, and we got beat by like a 10-2s team. And I was just like, guys, please just trust the process. Like, talking to parents, like no one had come to me and doubted anything, but it was just like, I pray that they trust me, that I'm teaching their daughters. We try and get 3 touches on the ball, because we're having this 10-2s team, literally it looked like 6 girls on a domino, 6 dots, and they just rotated perfectly, and they were just sending the ball over on one. And I was like, I know you're shocked to see the ball come over on one, guys. It happens though, we use it strategically when we're in high school, but we're going to be teaching past that hit. And I'm just like, please trust the process. It's going to help. I promise. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, do I trust this process? Oh my gosh. I don't want them to just be so defeated that we keep losing. And so finally, our last tournament, right before COVID shut everything down, we won the tournament. And I had girls crying. It was just like the sweetest thing. And so I had one of the dads come up and talk to me after. His daughter plays for me at Lincoln. We had just won state that year. And he goes, Coach, I know I just saw Naya win the state championship, but watching those girls just win was like just as sweet. And I was like, it really was, because they were truly playing for the love of the game and the love of each other. And it was so precious. I love it. I love coaching these 11s. It's really sweet.
Yeah, it takes a special person. I know Skylar was with us last night, and she saw you coach and was just like, oh my gosh, it takes a special person to be with that group, because a lot of us coaches, we want to be that varsity, that 18s, that 17s, that we're running quick, we're doing this and that, and and I can just, when you said that, it made me think of a kid I have this year. She's now a 7th grader, but I had her in Salvation Army, and she couldn't get the ball over the net, just underhand serving it all year long. And she dreaded to get up there and have to serve. So we just kept practicing, kept practicing. Finally, one day we're in a game. She swings, underhands it, gets it over. At Salvation Army and that young kids, I mean, you're just getting it over. And she gets the point and loses it. I mean, just looks at her parents right there and just like, just elated and looks at me and her teammates and just like, I cannot believe that just happened. I did it. And I don't know if I'll ever forget that. Just to see the joy on her face to do something she didn't think she could do, that she couldn't at one point, and be able to overcome that was special to see. I mean,
Absolutely.
Those are the moments I think we should be chasing more of.
Yes.
But awesome kid there.
And that we can celebrate those moments, that they're getting that positive reinforcement of adversity is university. We're learning so much through that. And then when we see that success, lavishing the praise, because that is what makes them build, perseverance and character. And so I think that having been the older coach, it has been fun to step into this role and say, okay, I want to help the littles develop. Also, I'm a mom of little kids, so I'm a little more patient with life now, although my husband may not agree, because sometimes I come and I've like used all of my patience. So, but he's a good sport. Thank the Lord have him, because he's a coach's kid. And, his dad always said, like, you cannot grow up and be a coach, because he had seen, his dad just going up and down, not emotionally because he's such a disciplined man, but just like the uncertainty of what the coaching life looks like. And so Dana's like, great, I won't be a coach. I'll just marry one, same. But so to have his support and knowledge of what that lifestyle looks like is huge.
Yeah. So this is one part I would like to do for just about every one of these episodes I do is be able to give something, kind of a drill type thing to coaches out there that are just starting or just want to add to their toolbox. And last night you were doing a game that a lot of people would call Nukem for your 11s, and I know you had a little bit of a tweak to it where basically they had to, once they catch it, and then toss it to themselves and push it over. And for anybody watching, if the coach is here, she's just tossing it over to a player, and you have your line. And basically, when the coach tosses, she just runs and catches it, and then she now has to go over to the other side, catch it, throw it. Why?
It's a one-on-one situation. Yep.
Yeah, you got one player on each side, and why that game is so helpful for those younger kids, and why that little tweak.
Yeah, I think the modifications is a good thing. So many times we talk about, me being like, I'm a very big Kessel disciple, if you will. So I'm always following his stuff on USA Volleyball, because again, if we're talking about, I do believe in the feeders of my middle school. So if I have this program, I want it to feed down. I love that USA Volleyball is trying that down. And if that's the verbiage that our girls are hoping to aspire to, then I want to be kind of using some of that similar verbiage. And so I like, and also from Ruth Nelson and how she takes things down for the athletes. We want them to see success, because there's this really great experiment where they had soccer players, they, to scale, blew up a soccer field for what like a 5-year-old would be feeling on a soccer field if they had to play on a regulation size soccer field, and just showing them like, no, that's not cool. Like we need to have less players, and we need to do small size games, any way that it makes the kid take ownership and have to take the ball more and be putting themselves in a situation where they're having to read the ball. That is the ultimate of any sport, is being able to read and anticipate. And so I think this drill is just such a great way to introduce that whether they know it or not, like you were talking about. It was just slows it down just a hair for them to be able to catch it, regroup, and say, okay, my strategy is now to go at this angle. But then it gives that girl the opportunity to say, I'm going to line up with where I see her eyes, her shoulders, her feet facing. And then it allows it to go back and forth. And then we just build on it. And so I think before you came in and saw me running that drill, the first part of that is actually just catching it, however you can get to it. You're catching it and then you put it up above your head and you're pushing it over as a set. And then the next step, toss, set, and push. So it's being in the air. The girl and teammate or her opponent is tracking that. Okay, where is she starting to turn to try and push it over the net? And then the third step would be just single touch and you're rallying, playing it over. So they're building confidence at each phase, but always modifying and be able to catch it. Their other favorite game at this level is something we call cat, toss, and spike. And so it is giving them the 3 inches, but it's not expecting them to get every per touch exactly how you would play in a game. So, the ball's tossed over, teammate catches it, it's 2-on-2. Another girl gets behind her, and because I always teach, okay, get to a hitting position. What is a touch point for you based on where the ball is getting ready to be set from? And so her partner tosses it, toss high, and she comes and spikes. On the other side, catches it. That's all we're expecting. Getting your feet there, trying to catch it. So it just, any modification you could do to most drills. I mean, you can modify drills to apply to the younger age group to give them those opportunities to read and just build confidence with seeing some success at a just smaller level, small-sided, 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 3-on-3. Anytime we can get them touching the ball more is where I'm kind of seeing the success from the 11s. But again, I didn't even have a full season, so I say that I know all the things at all. I'm still for sure learning how to, give these girls some more tools to be successful at this age level. But that's one that I've seen that they love, but I'm seeing a lot of improvement by doing so. I had never even played Newcomb growing up. Honestly, I just incorporated Newcomb last season, and I know a lot of people have heard of it, but I don't think that they know the benefits of it if you do it in the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those modifications to continually either dial it back for success or ramp it up a little bit to make them be better, is so important. And I know Newcomb is a big little kid kind of game, middle school type thing, and I think it's awesome. But like you just said, I think the why we're doing it and what should they be gaining out of it, not just playing, that we don't focus on enough. And myself included, I think even the high school girls, we tell them, hey, go do this and go do that, but we're not saying why we're doing this and that. It helps them really understand the spectrum of what's going on and the importance. I mean, if you understand the why, you're more apt to really, dive into that and be like, well, I've got to do it. I understand the why behind it now, so. So what's one quick little piece of advice you would give to parents watching club or school ball, just maybe the game of volleyball?
I think just the conversation after with a kid and just truly being curious instead of judgmental. I just got done watching Ted Lasso, which is a really great show if you're a coach, by the way. It's really fun. Jason Sudeikis is hilarious. A little crude, but I remember taking away something from it where he said, be curious and not judgmental. And I think that as a parent, just being able to tell your kid, I love to watch you play, and supporting them in that is what I hope to do as a parent, and teaching my kids to be good teammates as they've started playing organized sports this year, that we're going to be a good teammate and we're going to have fun. And that's going to be the ultimate driving factor for the, at least for sure youth sports, of what it looks like to be a good teammate, and then being a parent that encourages what that looks like to be a good teammate, because that's what makes it fun to be on the court with someone, and what makes you recruitable if you are that type of athlete that can go to the next level, especially from the female side, where most of our female athletes are also high achievers in the classroom. And so you're not setting yourself apart as much by being academically sound. Whereas inside, from what I see, if you're academically solid, that is going to be a factor in helping you get recruited too, because they don't want to have to worry about you tutoring sessions. Anyways, but I love to watch you. being that supportive parent, asking how you can support them.
Yeah, I think if I were to give something to parents, I guess maybe I would say it is such a technical sport. I think from the outside looking in, a lot of people just think it's, you just get it up and then smash the thing, just, and
Yes.
so much to the game of strategy and what exactly we're doing in the center, staying square so that it's deceiving, and there's just so much to the game.
Yeah.
But let's kind of shift into high school ball. We both coach high school, and you've been rather successful at Lincoln here in Tulsa. And just if you had to give 3 small reasons why you feel like you're successful personally, but probably most schools are.
Did you say give 3 reasons?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Sorry, I was thinking about my charger. Let me get it plugged in real quick. Okay, so Lincoln in specific, having the time for girls just hearing our verbiage, but again, knowing from that junior high level that we're building that foundation. I love running our summer camps, like I said, because it's making sure those girls have heard the verbiage, that they're hearing me, seeing me. They're not as scared when they come to the high school program. Giving new drills to my junior high coaches that they can be incorporating on a modified level so that when they get to the high school level, they're using those. That again, my high school players are being really involved because then they've taken that mentorship role, something we started doing there that they loved, that I'm thankful we were able to do because we had to be really creative with team bonding, was doing small groups. And so they all went, each senior had a junior, had a sophomore, had a freshman, had an 8th grader and a 7th grader. And now that works for our school. We're a smaller school. I've only coached at public schools before this. I played at a huge 6A public school. So it's been a different dynamic, one that I've loved and embraced so much. And so it works for us because we can all meet in the same gym before school and have that time to kind of create a mentorship role that these girls are passing on their wisdom and come up in the program kind of knowing their expectations. So I'm not wasting as much time teaching that. I get to go into more of the ball technique and specifics, and we get to go rolling a little bit faster. And so I think being able to build on that each year is a huge advantage. I am a huge proponent of mental training. I think that's really helped the program. I would say that going into the championship 2 years ago, so this fall, the fall before that, of 2019, and we were in the 5th, and I looked at our girls and the body language of the other team, and you could kind of see that different belief that our and speaking over themselves, affirmations, and had done the journaling work and the visualizations of, okay, we're in a tough spot. This is the set. There is no other set after this. Laying it on the line, trusting their teammates to do their job. But a lot of that was because we had laid such a groundwork with the mental training and with bonding, because one of my favorite quotes is, girls bond to battle and boys battle to bond. And so for female athletes, just seeing how important it is to know and trust the girl beside you helps you go into battle with a stronger force. Whereas, guys are battling and they're like, yes, do you remember being on the battlefield together? And then that's how they bond. And so I think I've incorporated a lot of that in my coaching, is creating opportunities for them to bond in the mental training aspect. So, and the junior high coaches, oh my God, I love them. Love you, Kara Shelley. Because Kara used to coach at the high school level, and so she's had that experience too. And she said the junior high commitment is more her speed right now. And so she runs that super well. I'm so thankful to have her consistency as those girls kind of come up in the program, because most of them don't play club or don't play maybe at a level. They're kind of getting introduced to club their 8th grade or their freshman year. And again, sometimes I have girls that go through the program and don't play at all, and that's great too. I want them to be a part of the program and compete if that's their desire, and if that's their skill set, for sure.
So we'll wrap it up with one quick one of if you gave one piece of advice to someone wanting to become a head coach of a program one day, just that one piece of advice.
That nugget. I would say just putting yourself into other gyms. Facebook created, I know you're on it too, and there's only a few Oklahoma coaches that I've even seen a part of that, the Facebook coaches and trainers group, where you can go in and ask questions and get just vast input. And so I love that what you're doing is maybe kind of just creating a subgroup for us as Oklahoma coaches to kind of bounce ideas off of each other, because it is fun to get so many unique answers and insight on how they've experienced things. So anyways, we have that avenue, but being in a gym and being able to ask questions, I think would be, if you can't afford to do like an ABCA convention or any type of coaching education. I know that you really did you go to Art of Coaching? Where did you and Skylar go last? Yeah. And so like anything along those lines where you're able to get face to face with someone, ask follow-up questions, see it in real time, in real life. That was the biggest thing for me, I think, was being a learner, constant learner and problem solver.
I think those resources are so awesome, and we should seek them and try to offer them more. I think we look at the big dogs to do it all, and there's a lot of people that are capable, and we should go for that, so. But I just wanted to thank you so much for being on here, kind of kicking off this idea and giving, kind of like you said, that subgroup of where we can learn, parents, players, coaches, and be able to just grow the game of volleyball and here in Oklahoma and just do better for everyone, the community of volleyball. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me be your guinea pig. I didn't know I was the one kicking it off. So
yeah. So I appreciate it. I can't thank you enough.
It was fun, Derek. Anytime.
Appreciate it.